Welcome to the Expat Experience, your essential guide to relocating, living, and thriving in San Carlos, Mexico. Join seasoned real estate professional Robert DeForge as he pulls back the curtain on seamlessly transitioning from dreamer to doer. Whether you're eyeing retirement bliss, seeking the perfect work from anywhere setup, or hunting for your ideal vacation escape, this podcast is your compass to navigating the exciting journey to San Carlos, Mexico living. Get ready to turn your relocation dreams into sun-soaked reality.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
Welcome to the Expat Experience. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So tell me, give me a little bit of background on yourself.
Well, myself, normally I don't do this. Very reserved, very private. I guess I've built confidence throughout my life. Originally, I'm from Oaxaca. I was just saying, I'm a Mexican, a coconut, Mexican. I'm actually from Oaxaca. I was born there, but I lived there until I was 8 years old. My father passed away and my uncle took us to the States. But the way he took us wasn't the proper way. We didn't formally fill out applications or anything. He actually paid a coyote to transfer us there. And so we went through the whole process of, crossing the border through the tunnel in taxis on top of each other, hiding in apartments, and just, at risk of losing your life. Being young was a big, trauma. So once we got to the States, our world just changed, because in Oaxaca, we didn't have education. We didn't go to school. We come from a ranch where we had to work in the farm, feed the animals, feed the cattle, pretty much, work on the land and property there. And so that's what my uncle didn't want for us after my father passed away. So he took us upon himself to raise us. And so he took us to Phoenix, and that's where everything just changed. It was a whole different experience, coming from no power, no television, just, no education. I feel like once we got there, we had to learn how to read, how to write, how to do everything, but in a different language. It was a big change for us.
That's a huge culture shock, isn't it?
It was a culture shock. Exactly. Yes, it
Wow.
was. Once we
That's
got
a
there,
good
we
story.
started school.
Yeah.
Once we got there, we started school,
Yeah.
but it wasn't easy. Like I said, we had to be I was supposed to be in the third grade, fourth grade, transitioning to fourth grade, but we didn't have any education background. So we were set back a year, and it pretty much started with an ESL program that the school was providing, and just pretty much started learning the language and pretty much learning how to read and write. And so that's why I feel like my Spanish is very limited in some words. I know it's very strong, but there's some words that I'm like, what's that meaning? Or like, how to proper writing it with grammar. It's hard for me still, I had to
Sure.
adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So that's a little history of
interesting.
me, And so pretty much I was raised in the States in Phoenix until I was about 22 years old, around that time.
Okay. And at that time, you came back to Mexico?
No. I actually left home when I was 17. I left home because, I came out of the closet. My family was not supportive. They didn't expect this because has always been very religious. The family is Jehovah's Witness, and that was a no, completely no. We were all raised, very dedicated to the religion, and it was prohibited. I was pretty much the one, I guess, the black sheep out of the family. And I kind of said, you know what, I'm working. I started working when I was 11 with landscaping. We started working in the States, helping with landscaping on the weekends with my uncles, supporting the family. And then I started working in the under the table, cleaning tables as a busboy. Los Compadres in Phoenix, in the restaurants. I would go after school and start cleaning, help the waiters, and I would get tips and get a very minimal wage so that I can, buy stuff for myself, because it was hard. And not having, full-time parents was very difficult. So everything that we needed we had to work for, so we started working early. And so by the time I would turn 17, I was working in a really good place. I became a CNA when I graduated from high school, and I got a really nice job in a medical field, just pretty much being a healthcare provider. And so I felt the confidence that I can be on my own, and I didn't really need the support from the family. So if they did, that was having a hard time dealing with things in public, and then also having a hard time dealing with things in family, I just needed to find my path and my direction. So I left home when I was 17.
Oh,
But that kind of
that's
affected me.
awesome.
That kind of affected me though, because when I turned 21, I had to renew my visas and process the paperwork. But there was problems with the paperwork that we filed, because I guess my uncle filed like a adoption like an adoption process in in Oaxaca, but they never followed through with the paperwork. They pretty much kind of sent paperwork back in the states, but it was never done correctly here in the state of Oaxaca. And so when we started filing for a residency, that's when they started immigration started kind of doing their research and their background on ours, making sure that we were not doing anything fraudulent. They found different, like they found my original father's birth certificate, and then they found a copy of the new birth certificate that my uncle had filed as as an adopted. And so, but it wasn't done properly. And so immigration took that as if we were trying to do like a fraudulent
Right.
documentation. And so because
Hmm.
of that documentation, they ordered they pretty much placed an order of deportation for myself, my siblings as well. And long story short, we got nervous. I didn't go to the appointment that I was set for. I was young. I was stupid. I was trying to find life, trying to go to school, paying for my school, working. And it was just not easy. And so I didn't go to the appointment. I was scared also, not, to come back or having to leave the States. And that was my biggest fear. And I think that's anyone who goes through that process. And I'm talking about it right now because I just kind of helped two immigrants this week that, have come up to me and said, you know what, I need help, blah, blah. I just got deported. And I've been in that issue where, I was going to school. The day that I was supposed to take an exam for my RN program is the day the immigration came and picked me up.
Oh,
And, I couldn't go to that.
wow. That was
It's
bad
hard to
timing.
talk about it. I've never talked about it or anything.
Oh,
I just keep that within myself. And so that day at 8:45 in the morning, yes, I was working. I did a night shift. I would do like 12-hour shifts so I can get kind of work out of the way and focus on school. Immigration came and got me at work. And so that same day, 11:45 at night, I was in Nogales, homeless, nothing on me, and I pretty much lived there for almost a month, just begging and looking for help.
so what do? They just let you loose over the border. They
Yeah,
say go back, and that's it. And you
yeah,
have to find your way,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yes, it's the
And
worst
I
feeling.
think Mexico doesn't really have a way to accommodate that. Like, I have a friend in Mexico City. She owns an agency, and when she hires somebody, she looks for people specifically, like what you're talking about, people that have been deported back to
Okay.
Mexico
Hmm.
because they're stuck.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation.
Right.
So, but I can see where your path has helped you develop a lot of character
It's
because of the
survival skills.
adversity,
I
right?
say survival skills and look for opportunities. And then
Yeah.
my saying is always, what else can happen? What's the worst that can happen? If it's already happened to me, lost my father. He died in an accident, and he died in front of us. I was 5 years old, and he pretty much hemorrhaged in front of us. And so I
Oh,
always say, what's the worst that can happen to you
yeah.
if it's already happened? And you don't know. You just can't lose hope, though. You can't lose faith, and you can't lose that mindset of putting yourself down or depressed or become depressed. You can't.
Right.
It's hard, but you can't allow it.
No, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Ultimately.
Ultimately.
That that's a great story.
Uh huh.
So I gotta ask because I worked in a restaurant, when I was younger, and my wife owned a couple restaurants, and
It's the
so what
hardest
what
field.
it's the hardest business that you have to live it every day.
Yeah.
What what drew you to that?
I always say things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. My plan was never to come to San Carlos. The first place I found a job was Ensenada, and I moved there, and I lived there for almost 2 years, working for this company. Like, so my English and my Spanish, it helped, and so I became like a general manager for the quality department for this printing shop. It's called Fortune Fashion. They did T-shirts for Tommy Bahama, Walt Disney World, Target, and so I was pretty much the channel of communication between the companies and the business doing these services.
Right.
So,
Right.
but
Oh,
I met
wow.
someone who has lived here, and so long story short, I decided to move here just to be with someone that it's, not be on my own. I didn't. It was just living in Sonata, not knowing anyone was kind of hard, and so now that I have someone that I can be with, I can create a life, brought me to San Carlos. And we did it. We were together for 12 years, living here before we opened the restaurant.
Man. And a great restaurant it is. I love Colibri. What is how'd you come up with the name Colibri?
Colibri, that has a story,
Colibri.
actually. Yeah, Colibri has
Okay.
a story. Anywhere I go, I have always lived, being raised in a position where you just have to have faith, you have to have imagination, create your imagination, and just kind of keep that magic going. I always believed in magic, fairies. Tinkerbell was always my favorite character in Disney World, and so, anyways, I would see hummingbirds. They would always remind me, that even though you're a small creature, you're just an inspiration. You can be an inspiration. It doesn't matter how big or how small you are. You can be an inspiration of anything. So when I was actually building the restaurant and going through the renovations and remodeling, putting the project together itself, it was actually going to be four partners. The restaurant itself was going to be four partners. It was going to
Uh-huh.
be Ramon Cruz with his ex-wife, and who had Pool House, and La Playa, who that was next door, which was forever happy at the plaza where we are. So my expectation was to learn. I always learn, and I soak. I'm a little sponge. I need to soak myself and kind of feed myself with whatever knowledge or ever opportunity that I can get my hands on. And so my goal was just kind of get that feedback. And the other partner was going to be my ex, who we were gonna work together in the building, in the restaurant. I love cooking. I learned how to cook through my mom. She would always make. She would cook to sell food, and so I would always help her make and prep. And so we would always form a assembly lines, and we would prep food like tamales, tacos, whatever you can think of, pozole, menudo. And so we would go to different places and deliver food for so we can make extra money also. That was in Phoenix. And so I knew that at the kitchen it could be my skill. I love cooking, I like being hands-on, I like trying the recipes. And so, but the first couple of weeks, the first months, Ramon's wife got pregnant, and so that he decided not to go with the route before we signed any contracts. And then it was just myself and my partner, but we were also going through problems. We were also in the process, and I kind of saw that it was a transition of change where we're going to be separating, because this was going to be like our window of opportunity of fixing things, and but also fixing our relationship. And so, and that never happened. So pretty much I was left alone. And so, when I had and I kind of stayed with the project. I should not have, but I just needed security. I needed a place to belong and a place to feel that I could, I don't know, grow. And I don't think it was the best option, but it did become the best option, because it was just, I was clueless on what to do, how to create the project, or where to start. I wasn't well also, because I was having problems with my relationship. And then also I left my job that I found here, to so I can dedicate, but the restaurant, you have to be hands-on 100%. You can't just open and leave it and expect your workers or your staffing to manage things, because it's not the same thing. You have to be involved. You have to know every niche on how it operates. And
Uh-huh.
so when I had the doors open in the building, trying to when we were remodeling, so we started in summer, and it was around No, it was around let's see, May, June, July. It took me about 5 months to put the project together, and it felt like an endless because it was just money going into the place, and then I was like, oh my god, I can't do this. It's just too much. I'm not ready for this. So had the doors open, and this little hummingbird just I would see it around always, and I always, like I said, every time I see a hummingbird, it always brings me inspiration and reminder. There's possibilities. There's always something. And so this little hummingbird came inside the building, the main room where the kitchen is, and so the workers, started talking about it. Oh, look, he brought you luck. And I said, okay. And so I guess Mexico has they're very mythical creatures, and there's a lot of beliefs with hummingbirds. And so
Yes.
for Mexicans, a hummingbird is like a gate of another world, and so I didn't know that about hummingbirds and what the Mexicans believed. And so they just started telling me stories about hummingbirds and what kind of the miracles. Witches, they told me a story where witches used to hunt them to take their little hearts so they can use that as black power or black magic. I was like, what, really? And so I started Googling stuff on hummingbirds, and I found a lot of stories about them. And so I didn't really think much about it. But when this little hummingbird came inside, and we all had to catch him. And so, he would just tire out. We would just tire him out so we can let him out. And because he couldn't find his way outside the building. So, and every time I would let him out, he would just stand on my hand and just kind of stare at me, and just wouldn't leave. And I would have to like go like this so he can just fly, And so I didn't think much about it back then, but I was thinking a lot about my family because it's been years since I had seen anyone and or being close to them. Up until now, I have not seen my mom because of the immigration problems. And so we had a lot of problems with my ex, and so he was leaving, and so I wasn't sure if I was going to stay here or if I had another place where I can go. I don't know if I was ready to go call my family and say, I'm going to go to Oaxaca, maybe try something there and see what can happen. I mean, we do have a house there, but our house there is just a small little ranch style house that's been closed since my father died. And so I was just pretty much like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if should stay here or should I not. And so I started praying a lot. I always, even though my religion didn't accept me, I still believe in Jehovah. I still believe in God. I still have to believe in the power of being of someone. And so I started praying a lot just for guidance and support. And I guess, long story short, when this little bird came inside the restaurant, and it took 3 times for us to catch it, and the last time that I released it, he just kept staring at me, and then I kind of just got shivers, and I kind of got a message and said, you know what, it is a mythical creature, and it's like a sign from my father, like he's here to visit me. He's telling me a message that I belong here. And then a lot of things that I researched about the hummingbirds, things just started happening where I say, I know the name of the restaurant. I'm going to name it Hummingbirds, Colibri. And then I said, you know what, the information that I'm getting from the hummingbird, that I found, I'm going to put it behind the menu. And then the concept just kind of became together. Everything just kind of started falling into place. And just that little glimpse of magic moment of that little stare from this little small creature said, you know what, this is where I belong. And I'm not alone. And I have this project that I have to build. And it just happened that way. And so I said, this is what's going to be the name of the restaurant, the concept, the colors. And I just started putting my little concept together because I didn't really know what was going to happen, like where to start, even the colors of the walls, everything, just the whole concept. And so that's why.
That's a great story.
Colibri.
That's great. How would you describe the Colibri dining experience?
Since I opened it, I noticed that I'm a big food eater. I like creating recipes. I like bringing different stuff and bringing new flavors. The savory of sweet and sour, salty, and things that can clash with themselves. You can So what I found out also with San Carlos was there weren't many options back then. Right now, there's a few more options, but
Yeah.
everyone sold hot dogs, burgers, what do you call it, fries and pizza, And so
Taco,
what
yeah.
my goal was to make
Yeah.
things a little bit different. Every month I change my monthly specials. Right now I'm creating my monthly specials, and I try to use things that are available. Like for example, right now there's pumpkin. Pumpkin's gonna be available, so I'm making a gelato with pumpkin spice. I'm gonna be making like a hummus with pumpkin. So I try to use things that it's coming available and by the season, because there's a lot of stuff here you can't get also. We're right now we have Sam's and Walmart, but that's only been around for about 12 years too, here in Guaymas, San Carlos. And so we do have Costco, but that's all the way to Hermosillo. And so you have to make a trip, and you have to really, kind of plan things out to stock
Uh-huh.
yourself. And back then I didn't have the experience of getting suppliers. Now people, they bring me my meats, they bring me my salami, back then I started with just pretty much going and shopping. And I still do. Like every morning I go, the produce. Try to select everything, because, and I don't freeze anything. I don't, if I ran out during the day, I have, 10 fillets or 8 fillets. I ran out, I'm out, because I don't like keeping that. After 3 days, the flavor's not right, the consistency is not right. It's just, that changes a lot.
Is there a signature dish at Colibri? Any
Mm,
kind of like
I
your
say
names?
it varies, because a lot of people do come for the fillet. A lot of people come for the pizza, or they come, for the salad. I think there's some. I do have my hummingbird pizza that everyone orders, and then I do have the fillet. One of the struggles that we did go through, and we still do go through, is trying to get tarragon to make the béarnaise sauce. That's something you have to order. You have to order and have it on stock, and it's dry tarragon that I use. That's something that you can't find. If you go to Sam's, you may get a little bottle, but that's not enough for the restaurant
Right.
size, business type of thing. So those are the struggles you go through here. And
I
right,
cook a lot as well. Yeah, there are ingredients that can be challenging.
yes, yes.
So if I have a trip to Hermosillo, I make sure I look around up there as well and try to
Yeah,
find them.
exactly. Try to find things, things that you don't normally find here.
So has the community influenced Colibri, since you've opened?
Oh, I work
The people.
strongly with the community. I think once I started opening the restaurant, the community has supported me, and they guide me through because it's so small that everyone knows everyone and everyone's involved. It's really a community. San Carlos works together. There's a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of programs that like the SBPA, the Rescate. What else? The CRISP program is new right now. The Rotary Club. What else? There's so many clubs that they're funded by nonprofits. And so we started working with all those nonprofits, and I feel like my lifestyle has always taught me that if you can give, then why not? Support as much as you can, because you never know what shoes you're going to be tomorrow or the next day. So always
Sure.
support as much as you can.
How do you see the whole food scene in San Carlos? How do you see it evolving, in the future, and and Colibri evolving?
Yeah, right now, yeah, you have to evolve. You can't stay stagnant. I've changed. When I first opened, it was about I had one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7 tables and the bar inside the main room. It was just like where the oven is, and then the main room, and that was it. That was when I first opened, and my staffing was about there was five plus me. So that was my staffing when I first opened. My kitchen, I made it too small the first time around, and I had to expand it a little bit, because I started with tapas and pizza, but then I saw the demand on other dishes, and so then I started doing samples, and then I started kind of going through that phase of growing and evolving. Eventually, I now expanded to 2 new locations, where now I have the bar for service, and but also sitting, and I'm involving that space right now. And then thinking that with the space of the plaza, they wouldn't give me the outside where I have the seating area now. So I did take over the upstairs, and I still have that, but those are more private sittings. But because it's a retirement community, people would not go upstairs. It was a struggle.
Yeah,
So then
yeah,
I talked
yeah.
to the owner of the plaza with my lease. Say I can't support if I'm not being able to support my clients, and they can't go upstairs. So I kind of negotiated, the kind of like the exterior part of the plaza so I can use for seating, And so it's
Yeah.
just been evolving. So you have to evolve. You have to be changing, constantly. Right now, I'm also changing my menu. I'm doing some adjustments, making it more nicer. I'm also including some meals that I've done in the past that people do request, or they constantly come and ask me, and if we can make it. And so I'm going to be starting this new menu this coming week. And so it's going to be a whole different printout. And then I'm changing the bar. I want to make it more like I say like the little hummingbird nest, because I have a lot of ladies that come and play cards. So I'm putting like tables there, and then upstairs I'm gonna open it for the community, for the young community, for the community where people can have little private dates or can rent the space and use it. It's got a nice
Mhm.
view for the it's
Oh,
got
that's
a
great.
little bit of view, so it's open
Yeah.
that space also. So you have to
I
evolve.
love I love to sit up there.
Yeah.
So, Alex, there's a lot of conversation out there around sustainability. How does that fit in with Colibri, or does it?
What do you mean sustainability?
Sustainability, green, doing things with little waste, you
Oh,
know,
uh-huh.
having the ecology in mind, basically just renewable, everything along those lines.
Right.
Is there anything to do with Calibri that you feel like sustainability is impacted or you're incorporating into your
Well,
restaurant?
it's hard to do that because I don't think we have like a system in place by the government
Mm,
here. And
mm.
so you get involved as much as you can. Like my boxes, I collect them and then they come and pick them up so that
Okay.
they can be
So
reused.
recycling. Yeah.
Yes, and then I also get involved a lot with, which I'm going to start scheduling a lot of cleanups on Carlos and just kind of help and go pick up trash and promote them more, because that needs to
Sure.
happen also, because the community itself, we get a lot of visitors, and unfortunately they do leave a mess, and that's where us
Sure.
the residents have to kind of step up and kind of help, like also like my oils, what do you call it? They come and pick them up. I don't just throw them in the trash. They come in,
Oh,
pick them
okay.
up, and then I also have like what for my dishwashing part, I also have like and like my sinks, they all have a filter. Like I clean that also. They come every week and clean that out, so that way there's no sewer problems also. So that's what
Gotcha.
I try to focus
Gotcha.
also.
Do you have any advice for expats or people coming to the area regarding cuisine? I mean, other than visiting Calibri, is there any other
I think
advice?
every place has a great atmosphere. I love going to other places. I don't, I mean, I'm always working at the restaurant, but I like going to different restaurants too. And I see a lot of comments like, "Where do you recommend to go?" I say if you're visiting, visit and enjoy every place. Go and involve yourself and kind of try lunch here, lunch there. And then also, and I always tell my staff also, and I try to focus with them and learning the language, because that opened the doors in my lifestyle. Learning English and Spanish has always helped me. But I also, try to merge, and so I always try to do like a community table also when I do events, and I also provide for example, on Wednesdays I do like a paint between the wines, and so I put a community table and people come in, and it's really great because I see the Americans, Mexicans, young, older, and they come and we all paint together, and so
Uh-huh.
they feel secure and safe because I'm there also. And so they can, I'm the bridge of communication and introduction. This is, and I know this because of this, and, and kind of
Sure.
who doesn't know each other. And then we do an introduction and they kind of do a little
Yeah.
icebreaker and stuff like that. But it's a great community. It's a nice community. And so it's nice is that the nationals are getting more involved. And I think that's the goal also, to get all the nationals involved in San Carlos.
Yeah. There's a lot more coming here all the
Oh,
time,
yes,
all
absolutely.
the time.
Yes.
I see it in the real estate business. There's more and
Hmm.
more people coming from all over
Absolutely. Yes.
Mexico.
And don't
It's
be
been the
afraid.
hidden gem for so long. I tell people where we are and they say, what?
Yeah.
Where? San Carlos, what is that?
Right.
But everybody knows Puerto Peñasco and Rocky Point
But it's
and
not the same.
Cancun and Cabo San Lucas. They know all these places, but San Carlos.
They're great places to vacation because I've been there, but it's not a place to live.
No,
For
no.
me, no. I have cousins there, and so I've gone and visit them, and so I see their lifestyles. I see what they're living and they lived in the States also. So we talk about the transitions of everything. And so it's San Carlos is a special, unique place.
It is.
I think it has a combination of different or worldwide. We got Canadians, Americans, Europeans, a little bit of everything, and they all work together. They become best friends, good friends here. Where in the States or anywhere else, you don't even know your own neighbor. So
Yeah.
that's what makes different San Carlos. This other
No,
community.
it's a very inclusive place. And the only thing I would like to touch on a little bit, because since I've been here, um, if you could talk a little bit about the LGBTQ
Okay.
community and your involvement and what you see happening as far as that community goes.
I feel like there's a lot of community here, and but I understand uh, their situation because it's nothing that has been exploded. For example, even the government right now, I'm working closely with the Secretary of Tourism to promote it more, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of businesses also that are, and so,
Mhm.
but I think it's just being afraid also, because we live in a world where everything's just judgmental, everything's being
Sure.
criticized, and so it's easier to criticize than to actually something's just fear, or the fear of trying to get to see or explore that world. And it's harmless, honestly. It's nothing different between you and I. We all want to have the opportunity of having a family. We want to have the opportunity of having a job. We want to have the opportunity of just being felt part of the community. We're not trying to harm anyone or to harm anything. We just want to coexist with everything. And so I
I-
am getting involved, and it was something that I kind of struggled to get it out there, because I have my family background. Like I said, that was the reason why I left home. And so trying to get when I had my first pride party, it was in 2018, and I was very nervous whether if it was going to be possible or not. But there's so many gay couples here that live together that are retired here, and it's just amazing. When I do have this kind of events, they come out and they support it, and you see, wow,
Mhm.
you get young, older, different generations, and it's just amazing. It is amazing, but we're more private, we're more enclosed, because like I said, we're afraid. You don't know where you're gonna meet with someone and who's very, I don't know, against it. And I do get a lot of comments when I post something. I do get negative feedback, and it's hurtful. But you know what? What
Yeah.
doesn't break you makes you stronger. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're never going to make everybody happy. But I
exactly.
do know, and I've traveled pretty extensively throughout Latin America, and there can be a sort of historically there has been uh, machismo culture
Yes.
that has kind of, and I know I spent quite a bit of time in Puerto Rico, and it can be kind of over the top there regarding that
Right.
the discriminatory attitude
Right.
towards the community. But I have to say, in San Carlos, that I have seen a lot of inclusiveness, a lot
Yeah.
here, and
Yes.
there's no, I don't feel when I'm out and about, I don't feel any kind of attention or, anything going on like where people are they might say things, online when you put a post because everybody's a keyboard warrior, right?
Right.
You've got that
Yes.
anonymity or whatever.
Yes.
But I think in real life, I've never seen anything negative at all,
No. 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 Not at
when
all.
I'm at
Not
the
when it comes
beach or
to
anything
love.
like that.
No. Not at all.
So in that regard, it feels like San Carlos is kind of special in that way,
Right. Yes.
right?
Exactly. Yes. And we do need places like that, because there's a lot of families that need places to go. I know three here right now that are living here that have kids. They're married couples with kids, and they're taking them to
Uh-huh.
school. They came to me and asked me a recommendation of school, and I kind of introduced them to the what do you call it, to the owners of the schools, and say, this is the families, and which is nice, because there's families that are raising kids, husband and
Uh-huh.
husband, wife and wife, which is nice. They're adopted kids, who are needing that love, who are needing that special care. That's all we want, is an opportunity of acceptance, and these are kids that are being adopted and are being raised, with true love. Love is love, like we always say.
Right, right. Well, anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Pretty much, food is food. I love food, and like I said, it's about playing with flavors. I'm always recommending ingredients like bacon and ice cream and syrup. I'm recommending what do you call it, gelato with wine, doing combinations of flavors. Just have
You
that.
like to experiment.
Yes, I like.
It sounds
to
like you like to.
Yes, exactly.
So
Flavor.
maybe there can be a little bit of a fusion twist to
Yes,
your palate,
exactly.
right? Is that a
Exactly? And some people
sounds
say,
like
"What,
it.
strawberry in a pizza, or or lemon?" Like lemon. I do the slivers of real lemon, and I put it in the oven, and just changes the whole thing. So you experiment with flavors, and so
Yeah, yeah.
once they try, they're like, "Oh, they come back. They keep coming back for that flavor."
Okay, everybody, when you come to San Carlos to visit, make sure you go to the Colibri restaurant, and also live music.
Yes,
On
we have
certain
live
days.
music every day, from Tuesday
Yeah.
through Sunday, and then we
Okay.
also have a lot of events. I started Art Walk in 2009 actually, and that program started because of I was having a hard time finding a job. That was before the restaurant, and that was my first business here in San Carlos, and that was just to promote local vendors, local artisans, local artists. And so this Sunday we have our local art walk. It's a little market. We start promoting little markets, and people come in and bring everything they do, and they have their business online. And so, for example, tomorrow we have this class where they're teaching them how to do candles. And then on Sunday, the lady that's teaching them, she's going to set up her stand and sell her candles in our art walk. And so that also creates jobs for other people. She's a single mom who's started her business, and so started, ways of opportunity. So we're working together, as the community. And so, which is also to promote consume locally, So
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Well, I don't know if you knew this, Alex, but I'm an artist. I used to do sculpture a lot, and I
that's what we
traveled and did
talked
art
about.
shows
Yes.
and things like that. Yeah. So I'm a art addict, and I have to leave my wallet at home because I have lots of art.
I love art. I like to paint. You should come and paint with us. You can do something. Bring something on Wednesday and work on
I'm
something
gonna
there.
My wife has mentioned, so I know I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the Expat Experience podcast, and we'll see you soon because you have a wonderful happy hour. I know I'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you. Rob,
Okay.
for
We appreciate you joining us. Visit expatexperiencepodcast.com for more practical tips and insights on making your move to paradise. We're here to help navigate the process of relocating to San Carlos every step of the way. Start your journey toward living the dream in Mexico.